Surgery, lies, subterfuge, and everything in between. The NBA, where drama always lives. We've got tons of stuff to talk about today. Joel Embiid, not great health situation moving forward. The Lakers and Hornets now still in a Mark Williams dispute. What's going on there? We'll talk a bit about that. Things happening with the Dallas Mavericks. Jason Kidd not wanting to talk to the media, apparently. Pretty bizarre stuff there. Keith, I thought after the trade deadline, it was going to be like, oh, okay, smooth sailing from here. The NBA said, nope, we've got way more coming your way.
Yeah, usually we get through like the first wave of waivers and buyouts in the first weekend. And then this week is just kind of camp full of games. And then everybody's off on vacation or off to the All-Star game. And yeah, we get all kinds of weird stuff going on all around the league. It's, definitely a time happening here, I would say, in the NBA. And there's uncertainty with a whole bunch of players. We're going to get into that. I guess we should have hit on this yesterday, but it just nature of coming back. Joel Embiid. This report broke literally during the game on Super Bowl Sunday morning, or I guess early afternoon. Sixers are playing the Bucks, and Lisa Salters in the middle of one of those sideline reports says, Joel Embiid tells me I'm going to need more surgery and I'm going to be down for a while. And for now, I'm going to try to play through it, but eventually I'm going to need more surgery. And like, that's kind of like, whoa. Like, and nobody had, I mean, we all,
that's a big deal.
Certainly a possibility, but yeah. Nobody kind of knew that. So yeah, I mean, crazy to think about it. This to me says he's going to try to do what he can for the rest of the season. And then we probably got him undergoing off-season knee surgery, and then we'll see how long that keeps him out into next year.
So Joel Embiid, 30 years old. He is on a long-term deal here with the 76ers, and we've talked about the 76ers and their future and the Paul George contract, maybe them even considering moving off of that contract at the trade deadline. But you look at Joel Embiid, still has, after this, 4 seasons under contract. The last year, not a team option, a player option. This is not great for the 76ers if Joel Embiid is just never able to get back to what he was, which, look, he came into the league injured. He's battled injuries throughout his career. He missed his entire first year in the league because of injury, and they knew when they drafted him that was going to be the case. But for such a talented big man, this has got to be concerning, not just about getting him back on the floor and getting him back to, or getting him to where you need him to be post whatever this next surgery is, but what does this future look like? Joel Embiid feels like he is, if he hasn't already, dangerously on the precipice of becoming perhaps a bad contract here.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right. It's not a bad contract because when he plays, even Sunday, he's limping around out there. He can't move. But offensively, he's still hitting jump shots. He's still scoring the ball. He's still making plays. So you're like, man, this guy is still something. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, you could get the surgery and get him right. Boy, he'd really be something. But like, yeah, then you start looking at it like, if he's only going to ever play like 40 to 50 games, and some of those games aren't going to be very good, and what's he going to be by the time we get to the postseason? Yeah, that's not worth $50 to $60 million. It just isn't. You're not going to get enough out of that. And then on top of that, you have Paul George, where it's like, is Paul George going to miss a whole bunch of time too? It gets super messy. So Philly is in a weird spot here, and this could lead to a really kind of crazy offseason for them. It was this past year, but I mean, we could be right back doing it all over again with trades and a whole bunch of other crazy stuff going on.
Yeah, certainly not where Philly wants to be. And we'll see what Joel Embiid looks like for the rest of the season. Obviously, the 76ers, they want to do everything they can to win games right now. Maybe they wind up praying for lottery luck. Their pick, if you remember, is top 6 protected. So maybe that's something that they're looking at here. But you look at the 76ers right now on the outside looking in, trying to catch up to the Chicago Bulls, but a game and a half back. And if they don't have a healthy Joel Embiid, that will make it a bit more challenging. They did go on a little run for a bit there, Keith, but now they've lost their last 3. You still think they make it? They make the play-in the East?
I think so. I think they will pass Chicago.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think the Bulls are going anywhere, but I don't know. I mean, they're going to have to, like, this is like the most simple thing in the world. They're going to have to start winning games. right?
Yeah.
Like you keep losing games. Maybe Chicago, that game that they're up in the loss column, just holds up, and they move forward that way. Philly is, they're in a weird spot. I think I ran it earlier today. They're projected right now to give like the 9th pick to the Thunder.
Mm-hmm.
If you use the projected standings using ESPN's BPI the rest of the way, because that's who it goes to, because of course it does. If Philly can't,
all picks.
Yeah, exactly. I'll go to the Thunder eventually. So yeah, I mean, just crazy stuff there with Philly, and we've talked about it, before. They've really already won too much to kind of bottom this thing out and put themselves in a position to be in a spot where, because if you're top 6 protected, you really want to be like 4th or 5th to feel really good about keeping that, because then, all right, that's going to have to be extreme unluckiness to lose the pick. If you're 5th, all right, that's not the end of the world. If you're 6th, that starts to be really shaky territory, and I just don't know that they can get any higher than then into the maybe the 6th spot.
Right.
So that's why it gets tough to say, just bottom it out and go. But man, that last team in the East playing tournaments just going to be absolutely brutal. Like they're going to stink.
It's not great. It's not great. That's for sure. And what are your Orlando Magic doing, Keith?
Yeah, my Orlando
My
Magic.
Goodness.
Yeah, I mean, they can't
know what
score. I mean. They have no scoring. Even last night, they shot it okay. And then the defense wasn't there. The Hawks it was a very odd game. When I watched it, I watched some of it live, and then I watched most of it in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Today, the Hawks played 10 guys. All 10 guys scored between 8 and 19 points. So super balanced scoring.
Yeah,
the Magic played, I think they played 9 or 10 guys. Paulo and Franz combined for 68 of 100 and something points for them. So like complete opposite games, and just a weird game. But yeah, they just can't score. They have no shooting. They struggle to put offense up. It's bad. They should have done a trade at the trade deadline. Already been through that. I really didn't like that they just chose to sit it out, but it's going to be tough for them. Now, I will say this, coming out of the All-Star break, their schedule lightens up considerably.
So that'll help.
They have a lot of easy games the rest of the way, so they should be in fairly good shape. But yeah, tough going to this point for the Magic.
All right, let's jump over here. Mark Williams trade drama continues. The Keith, it was, I thought, maybe not a coincidence that the information that the Hornets are considering, maybe, possibly disputing the Lakers' decision to nix the Mark Williams trade on a failed physical. The fact that they might dispute it being leaked just 10 minutes before Luka's debut with the Lakers, probably not a coincidence. The Hornets taking a little. The Hornets have clearly not been happy with the way all of this has proceeded, especially with their kind of snarky press release they already issued. I have a feeling they'd like to take any kind of little shots at the Lakers that they can in the situation.
Yeah, my guess is what the Hornets feeling right now is like, all right, is there something to be concerned about? Sure, but it's not that bad that you needed to wipe the trade out and put all of us now in this weird spot. And I think from the Lakers side, it is, it was for us to give up, control of 2 first-round picks and a player we really like it was bad enough, and we're not moving forward with that. I had a lot of people asking, after that news came out, like, well, what can the league do?
Yeah.
I mean, the league has the ability to always sit down and make an independent decision, right? There are rules that are hard and fast, and then there are rules where, all right, we can look into that. And let's just say the league says, all right, we're going to have him checked independently. That independent doctor's like, this guy's actually fine. Well, then they're going to need a really good answer from the Lakers of, why did you do this?
Yes.
Otherwise, and that's probably not going to be what happens. I'm sure it's going to be the league's going to be like, okay, Charlotte, you're mad, be mad, but we're going to move on. Like we're already moving, with this, we just move on.
I had somebody say to me today, like, given Mark Williams' injury history, you're telling me that you really think there's not one thing they could find that they could point to and say this would be a reason to fail a physical? Like, there's a bunch of things that they could point to if the Lakers really wanted to. We already know there's stuff there, but that's also the Hornets' contention would be, well, yeah, they knew this guy's been hurt because he's been hurt. Like, that's what's happened with him over the course of his career. But I do agree. I think it's very, very unlikely the league finds in favor of the Hornets here, if they even dispute it, if they even go down that path. But could this lead to some big picture changes in terms of maybe allowing trades to be amended post-trade deadline in the event where something pops up on a physical? Obviously, Keith, this is somewhat unprecedented for something like this to happen, where a team fails a player based on a physical and then the other team decides to dispute that. Again, they have not officially disputed it as we're recording this, but this will set precedent for situations like this moving into the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what the immediate fallout from this is going to be is, if you're making a trade for a player with an injury history, I think you're going to see teams say, we need to get that done by like Tuesday before the trade deadline. Like, we cannot get this done. And again, people keep throwing out there, it was done on Wednesday. It was agreed to late Wednesday night. Like, you and I had already been talking about other stuff into the next, for the next day by the time that broke. And I think you just happened to be on, right?
I was live when the trade broke with editor extraordinaire Daniel Starkand over on Lakers Nation.
So like, and then I was like, hey, do you want me to jump in? And we jumped in. So it was pretty, it wasn't like the Luka trade post midnight, but it was late in the day Wednesday. So that day was shot. Thursday is the trade deadline itself. That's when you do the trade call. And then on the trade call, everybody's like, yeah, we're all good. And then it wasn't until sometime Friday, Saturday that they got their hands on Mark Williams and started looking at him with their doctors and failed it. So that's where, like, from all parties involved, like, let me rephrase, because it's not the parties involved. They all get that part. From the fans on both sides, like, I don't care that it was done Wednesday. This deal was not functionally done until Thursday, which meant really you were already past the deadline. That's where your problem is. So that might be your immediate change, is just team behavior change of, this guy's got a lengthy injury history. We think we're okay, but let's get this done a couple days out so that we have time to pivot if need be with that. But yeah, longer term changes. And there's weird stuff with all this, because there is, within trade stuff, there are NBA bylaws, which fall under the operations manual. Then there is NBA stuff that is rules that fall under the CBA. This one kind of crosses over into both. So if we're going to see any big time change where it is, hey, if there's a failed physical, you can do an amendment of the trade post trade deadline to push the trade through, as long as both sides agree. That would have to be like collectively bargained and probably voted on by the I think. Oh, hit that breaking news drop.
I haven't even seen it yet.
I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story.
Oh, well, not horrifying for Brandon Ingram.
Not horrifying for anybody, I don't think.
No.
New Toronto per Shams Charania. Look, you already got his tweet up there.
I'll get the new one up here.
New Toronto Raptors star Brandon Ingram has agreed to a 3-year, $120 million contract extension with the franchise, including a player option in 27-28. Clutch Sports CEO Rich Paul, agent Shai Say, and Mike George told me, and the me is Shams Charania, not me, Keith Smith, and Bobby Marks. So there it is.
I like the trade that much better for Toronto now. $40 million, I'm fine. You don't want to give Brandon Ingram 50. 40, I'm fine with. The player option in the third year may be a little risky with his injury history, but but by giving him the player option, I'm sure that was a bargaining chip in getting him to do either a shorter term deal, a 3-year deal instead of 4 years, or maybe, taking a little bit less than what he ideally wanted. If you're the Pelicans right now, are you not just thinking, well, damn, we would have given him that?
Nah, I don't think so, because I don't know that he would have done that deal there. Maybe he would have, but I think if I'm the Pelicans, we were ready to move on here, and we're ready to go do something different than Brandon Ingram, right? We're ready to move into our next iteration with this. The reason why this is a 3-year deal on this is Brandon Ingram is bound by the extend trade rules because he was traded for the next 6 months. Clearly 6 months from the trade deadline would take us till after the opening of free agency. So he could only do 3 years. Remember, extended trade rules got a little more liberal in the under the new CBA. They went from 3 total years, so that would have been year left plus 2 more years, to 4 total years. So he gets that 3 new years. And then he also could go up to, doesn't look like he went all the way there, but up to a 20% raise off his current salary, then with 5% raises off of that. So this is a little lighter than he could have even gotten, I think, in the full max under the extended trade. But this is still a really good value, I think, for both Brandon Ingram and the Raptors. Now, if you're the Raptors, you've got it kind of locked into a core-ish of Scotty Barnes, Emmanuel Quickley, Brandon Ingram, RJ Barrett, Jakob Poeltl. I think next year you go in healthy. That's probably a playoff team in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. I think in the East, with the team that they've got, it probably is a playoff team. Yeah, I like this deal. Again, I think I like the trade now for the Hornets. Or I'm sorry, for the Hornets. I've got the Hornets on the mind. For the Raptors, even more. I think that he's going to be a good fit. Now, Keith, the only thing is, I'll say this. He may just be signing this extension. I still don't expect them to be super aggressive playing him the rest of the season.
No,
we know what this is about for the Toronto Raptors for the remainder of the season. But I agree. You add that nice high draft pick to the pieces they've already got, and I think the Raptors are going to be right back in the mix.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Now, I think if anything, this maybe leads you to, let's be a little more cautious with him, because now we have a long-term investment here. I think you would like to, let's get a handful of like 5-ish games, 6 games, see what it maybe looks like with all those guys. Raptors clearly are going to be in, let's just say, liberal load management down the stretch post All-Star here. I don't think I'm breaking much news with that one. I think we'll see considerable amount of rest days coming for guys and the like. But yeah, I mean, that's a fun team in Toronto. I kind of like it. I'm excited to see it all come together, because it's a little quirky. The shooting is a little sketchy with some of those guys. You get a little bit of overlap going on with a handful of these guys, but I think they're going to make it work. I'm excited to see how it looks.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So great news for the Raptors. I think good news for Brandon Ingram as well. And we move forward here. All right, let's take a look at this, Keith.
Well, let's finish out the Mark Williams stuff. With this.
I was going to say we've got,
because here's the still kind of outstanding weird stuff with this trade.
Some weird happenings around it.
Yeah, exactly. So if we keep it to the Hornets and the Lakers, everybody is now back where they were pre-trade. But Mark Williams has not played for the Hornets. They've played a couple games. He has been inactive. Mark Williams he played the day he was traded. To the day the trade news broke. Before the news broke, though. Yeah, exactly. He played that night. So this is not an injury thing with him where he's out. Don't Connect was back with the Lakers, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I think on the bench last night, was probable for the game and then didn't play. But we didn't get any real, I think they said personal reasons. And got shifted very quickly, was probable earlier in the day, and then suddenly dropped to out, to straight just out for the game. Very rare to see somebody do that, to go from probable to out. So raised eyebrows for sure. And if the trade deadline was this Thursday, we'd have been like, oh, they're trading him, right? Like that would have been where we went to, because that's more often than not. Or it's something like he's got a baby on the way and now he's going to be out. He's not going to play because the baby's coming. But there's no indication it's anything like that. So just got us a little like, why are these guys not playing? Like, is there still potential here that one side or the other is maybe this thing gets, forced through one way or another? I don't know. Like, why are we not playing these guys? Just a little odd. It is weird that they're not playing, that they could have played. And then, JJ Redick chalks it up to, well, he's going through a whirlwind of emotions and all that. And I get that, and that's reasonable, but then why was he listed as probable that he's going to play? Now, Redick did say that he intends to play him in tomorrow's game. Yeah. So we'll see if that happens. But we're in the window where it could still just be the back. I mean, we're talking about going across the country. Yeah, exactly. It could just be the back and forth travel. The Hornets didn't want to throw Mark Williams in just yet. The same thing with the Lakers, and that's it, right? And maybe that's the explanation, but it is noteworthy that
all of the pieces. Even when Keith, we were talking before we came on the air about the pieces from the Hornets' other trade.
That's the other
not
thing.
all of them not playing yet.
Yep.
That is just odd. It makes you wonder if teams are just hesitant in case something else is coming down here.
Yeah, because there is a world where right and now we're not going to dive too deep into conspiracy theory land here, because that's a whole other show you can find on the internet somewhere. But the Hornets they traded for Yusuf Nurkic in a salary dump move from the Suns. Nurkic has been listed as active for their last 2 games, but did not play. He was a DNP CD, which is did not play, coach's decision for each of those games. I have not been able to verify yet for myself if he was actually in uniform and on the bench, but that's what that would list. Otherwise, he could have been active, but didn't play, personal reasons, didn't play, not with team. Those are not uncommon things. Cody Martin and Vasily Micic, who went out in that trade to Phoenix, those guys haven't played, but they've only played 1 game since the trade deadline. They played on Saturday, and those 2 guys are still listed as out, trade pending, which that's not uncommon. That's still, you're only a day plus out from the trade deadline. So just weird stuff going on with this. We're going to keep an eye on it. We'll let you know. I'm sure, everybody's wondering what's going on. And here's the thing. If we all of a sudden see, tonight, Martin or Micic plays, Martin's been out with an actual injury, but if Micic is on the Suns roster and plays, all right, well, then that's probably done. And it's just as simple as the Hornets are like, we're not ready to play Nurkic yet. And we don't know if we ever will be, because he's really a contract for us. That's all it is. And then if we see Dalton Knecht play tomorrow, or Mark Williams, I think the Hornets play tomorrow too. If Mark Williams plays for Charlotte, well, then that could be a sign of, all right, we're going to move on to let's fight and argue over fines and other penalties and other stuff, but nothing's happening with the players.
Right. And again, I would be surprised if the NBA did anything in this, but it's something to keep an eye on here. Perhaps related here, let's just throw this in at the same time. Jahlil Okafor is back, got a 10-day contract with the Pacers, had been playing, I believe he was playing for the Mad Ants in the G League.
Which is the Pacers G League.
Right. And it played fairly well. And so now he lands a 10-day contract with the Pacers, but this comes on the heels of Alex Len had reportedly been joining the Pacers after being waived by the Washington Wizards. Now he is going to be available on the market. A lot of people instantly connecting him to the Lakers, and rightfully so. I hypothesize we could see something like this happen, or theorize that something like this could happen, where players would see the Lakers situation and think, oh my, maybe there's a starting job here. Normally not something you can get on the buyout market, and that there would be some bigs that would kind of gravitate towards the Lakers. I don't know if that's exactly what's happening here with Alex Len, but it was noteworthy that on the heels of the Mark Williams thing falling apart, suddenly Alex Len's decided not to be an Indiana Pacer, and we'll see if that connection winds up, coming true.
Yeah, and there has been reporting out of Indiana that they are not, they're no longer planning to bring in Alex Len, which should have been clear, but there could have been something like, hey, Alex Len is going to join after the All-Star break or something like that. And I've kind of floated out there. Well, all of a sudden there's a, high profile team that has championship aspirations with potentially a whole lot of minutes versus going to Indiana, where it's like, you're the 3rd string guy and maybe you'll play once in a while. Now, all of a sudden, Alex Len might be like, hold on a minute, I'm ready to go. It is worth just noting, I know you know this, and Laker fans know this, Lakers do not currently have an open roster spot.
Correct.
So they would have to waive somebody, but that's easy enough done by waiving Cam Reddish or Christian Wood. They're on fully guaranteed contracts, no sense of which guy it would be. Who knows? Reddish has been out for a while. Wood's been out all season. So you'd be waiving somebody who's very much not been a part of major stuff this year. And then it is important to know, too, the Lakers do have their non-taxpayer MLE available, but they're only about $1.6 million or so under the second apron hard cap. So they could beat offers from other teams for Alex Len, where Alex Len would, like the Pacers, would have been looking at a straight prorated minimum contract. The Lakers could say, hey, we'll use, I don't know exactly where we're at, but we'll use, 1 point whatever out of the prorated prorated taxpayer. We'll give you that to come here instead.
Right.
and that could be how this goes down as well. So that's just something to keep an eye on. I mean, and they may, if they move forward with Alex Leonard or somebody else, it may just still be a straight, minimum just to kind of, hey, well, let's protect ourselves just in case we need to do 2 of these later. We're not using up all our room right now.
That was going to be my question. And this is something that, Lakers fans have been talking about quite a bit. Do you happen to know off the top of your head what a prorated minimum would look like? I know that requires a little bit of math to kind of figure that out with how far we are in the season and all of that. If they decided they needed to make a second move. And that's been my point, that if you do use that taxpayer MLE and you use, say, all of it, you have to get that move right, because otherwise you're right there against the hard cap. There's nothing you can do. You're stuck. You can't bring in another player. So could they give up give a prorated minimum instead? And then would they still have enough flexibility to add a second player if needed?
Yeah. Prorated minimum today, about $740K, a little bit over that.
Just barely.
So you could fit in 2 if you needed to do 2 of them, because you're coming in under 1.5 million. So,
and remember, everybody, on these guaranteed contracts, if you remove a player, you waive a player, that contract still sits on your books. That only opens up the roster spot, does not open up salary.
Yeah. Right. And that only way that comes off is if it's a guy who gets claimed off waivers and that other team assumes it. We've seen that happen a couple times at this time of year, but it's pretty rare, because most teams will basically say, why are we going to give you a get out of jail free card, make you eat the money, and then we'll work on them. It's only like if we want that player, like we desperately need him, we want him, we're going to get him, and then we're afraid somebody else might sign him instead. But again, you're talking buyout guys, end of the roster type guys here.
All right, let's go here. Daniel Gafford goes down, and oh my gosh, what is going on in Dallas? Derek Lively is already out. Anthony Davis is out. Keith, we never got the
Dwight
news
Powell's
yesterday.
Out.
What's that?
Dwight Powell's
out.
Yeah.
Maxi Kleber, who's not even a Mav anymore, he's still out. What is going on? We never got word yesterday on what Anthony Davis's imaging showed, at least not from what I saw, because that was going to, if he needed surgery, that could be the season for him, which would be awful. Mavs fans are going through it right now already with all the Luka stuff, but now the injury bug hitting them this hard, this is absolutely rough. I mean, I've seen the projections now. There's serious doubt that the Mavs are going to make the playoffs, that maybe they are the team to drop in the West after all these injuries pile up.
Yeah, it is rough with Dallas. They did close last night's game playing extreme small ball with
and they lost an OT by a point.
They lost an overtime to the Kings. Kings, who played tall ball, they played. Kings won a 6.5 minute stretch in the fourth quarter with Sabonis and Valanciunas together, and they outscored Dallas 21-14 over those 6 minutes. And that's really how they got fully back into the game. They ultimately forced overtime and won in overtime. But yeah, I mean, that's rough. And we just talked about the Lakers situation and the whole hard cap. Dallas is 171,000 under the hard cap. So they can't sign anybody until there is 14 days left in the season to fill out, even if they, did something to get there. They do have an open roster spot after the trade deadline, but they can't fill it, with anybody, right? I mean, they could do 10-day contracts. That could be possible, but they could only do I think, one of those and fill it, because, a 10-day contract's like 100 and almost 120K on that. So it is, not good times in Dallas. Like people were like, well, the league has to give them some kind of, hardship or something. That's only a roster exemption. That is not a cap thing. You are under the hard cap and you're hard capped. You get no credit there. It is, sorry, too bad. Now you could maybe play the game with waiving a player where it is we're going to waive Jaden Hardy and say somebody will claim him and pick him up because he's a good enough player. And that could maybe give you the room to do that. We saw the Miami Heat do that several years ago with Rodney Magruder. But it is this is, dangerous time right now for Dallas, because they're going to be a whole lot of Kyler Kelly as their only two-way center available. Maybe they make another move within their two ways to bring in another two-way big man, and that's how they're going to get by. But they are going to be super small for a while.
Yeah, this is a rough time, certainly in Dallas. You had fans getting kicked out of the building last night for saying fire Nico and all kinds of things.
Let's go there, right?
Yeah, let's go to the Mavs drama. Where do you even want to start with all this? Guy, I got plenty to say about it.
Yeah, you can't kick fans out for being mad and saying fire people.
Exactly.
Good Lord. Like, if we did that, like, kick them all out every time they boo a team when they're playing poorly and not showing enough effort, right? Like, they're supposed to just be there, rainbows and sunshines. I get it. If
the 76ers would have to play in front of an empty arena every game.
Yeah, exactly. yeah. Hey, could you imagine how that would
Philly
fly
fans,
in like the Northeast? Like, they'd be like, every game would just be played in a closed arena.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. I fully get it. Like, you can't allow vulgar signs in the arena because you're trying to keep it a family friendly atmosphere. And if people are being way over the top with the things they're saying, get them out of there. But like, there were reports and videos of people coming out saying like they weren't being offensive. All they were saying was fire this guy. Some people said they saw people get kicked out because they put black tape over the Mavericks logo on their jersey and over stuff. Like, you can't kick people out for that. You made a trade people do not like.
And they knew it. They knew people wouldn't like it.
Yeah. And you came out and issued a whole statement saying like it was really hard, but here's all the reasons we did it. We know it was really tough on people. And now you're going to kick people out for that. That's one. And then the whole Jason Kidd thing. I'm not going to put the blame on Jason Kidd because I don't know that Jason Kidd was like, I'm skipping post-game media of his own decision. That more often than not, that's a team decision to say, hey, you're not doing it tonight. But I think what they were like, this is going to be Anthony Davis injury questions, Daniel Gafford injury questions, and how do you feel about them kicking fans out? And no one's going to ask about, hey, you just lost by a point in overtime to the Kings, who you're fighting with for playoff positioning. Yeah. So I think they were like, you know what? The NBA wants to fine us. We'll take the fine. We're not put in there. I have said for years, I've said it on this show, coaches are put in the most ridiculous position in the NBA because they end up being the mouthpiece for the organization because they're the only ones that meet with the media on a near daily basis. Players don't do it. Front offices certainly don't do it. No. But the coach is there every day. And there are rules. The NBA can hit them with a fine if they want to. We'll see if they do or if the NBA is going to be like, all right, we're going to give you one because we kind of get it. But, man, grow up. Like, be professional. This is ridiculous.
It's part of the job of being a coach. It's why, and obviously a lot of my perspective on this is going to be through that Lakers lens, but it's why when the Lakers were going through the hiring process with JJ Redick, part of the discussion was we want a coach who's going to win the press conference. And they felt like there were too many times where Darvin Ham did not do that. And it's a tough spot to be in because everything you say is going to be dissected. You've got to say it just the right way. If you say something, your intention might mean one thing, and if it comes across differently, for example, when Darvin Ham talked about how ridiculous it was that fans were living and dying with every game, that upset a lot of people, myself included. You've got to be able to answer questions and deal with the press conferences in a way and deal with the difficult questions. It's part of what coaches are getting paid for. I know we focus on the X's and O's and what's happening on the court, but part of the job is to be able to field those questions. And some coaches do it better than others. I can tell you Frank Vogel is one of the best I've ever seen at it. I've never seen a question trip him up. He's got the perfect answer for everything. And so there's a feeling of comfort when you have a coach who has the ability to do that. But again, not every coach is the best at it. So for an organizational perspective, if you've got a guy like, say, Vogel or there's other guys around the league that do it as well, who is going to go in and is going to navigate through this minefield of questions perfectly, then there's a level of stress that doesn't exist for an organization. Yep. Whereas with some other guys, you don't know what they're going to say, and you're just thinking, oh God, okay, how are we going to spin this time? But it's part of the job, and it's part of what teams use to evaluate coaches when they're making decisions on who they're going to hire or who they're not. It's part of it. Part of the responsibilities are speaking to the media and how well you do at that. So this is an important thing for the NBA. It's an important thing for the Mavs. And I was surprised that they decided, not to put him out there. And I would assume they will next game because I'm sure they're going to hear from the league about it.
Yeah. And again, I'm not going to put any of this on Jason Kidd unless Jason Kidd comes out and says, I didn't want to do post game. And Jason Kidd could have walked out there and done, trust me, I covered Steve Clifford for a long time here in Orlando. When they lost a game where he didn't think they played the right way, he would literally come in and say, here's my statement. It would basically rip the team to shreds and then would say, I'm not doing questions. And then he'd just leave. But that's at least he came out and gave a statement. With that, I've also covered coaches who have come out, and Frank Vogel's another one, really good at saying, I'm not going to talk about that. Let's focus here. If you have questions about that, we'll talk. If you don't, I'm going to move along. With this, like
Nick Nurse did that with the Joel Embiid stuff. Just a couple of months ago, just out and said, listen, guys, as we're starting this, I'm just not answering any questions on this. Just so you know, a reporter tried to ask a question on that. He said, remember, I'm not answering this. Can we move on to something else? And that's fine. And you need to be able to navigate that. But it's not like Jason Kidd is being forced to answer all of the questions. He could say something like that. Hey, I don't want to talk about that right now. I want to focus on the game. And that's okay.
My guess is this just was the organization saying, we'll take the hit and we're not even going to expose them to having to go out there and get asked a whole bunch of non-things.
Sure.
All right, we'll go to a Mavs. Good topic.
Positive thing.
Kyrie Irving named to the All-Star team. Yeah, the reason why sucks, but they get it All-Star representative. I said, I don't think we actually talked about it on the show here because it all got swallowed up in trade stuff. But Kyrie was on my All-Star picks from the beginning. I thought he should have been an All-Star. So I'm 100% in on this. I think he's having one of the best seasons of his career in a really tough place. Even before all this stuff, he's done quite well. So I think this is very well earned by Kyrie Irving to, make it to the All-Star team.
Absolutely. All right. Another transaction here. Daniel Tice goes to Monaco. So he will not join an NBA club. Instead, he's going to go overseas. I don't know what opportunities Tice had in the NBA after being waived by OKC, but he plays really well in the international. I mean, he was really impressive for Germany this past year. So I don't blame him necessarily for wanting to go and play the international style of ball and join an overseas club after being cut loose by the Thunder, after being traded by the Pelicans.
Yeah, the report that came out by Donatas Urbonis, who covers mostly EuroLeague stuff for Basket News. He's really, really good. Was that Tice did have NBA offers. He also had a much larger offer to join Panathinaikos in Greece, and basically said, I want to play. Like, my thing is I want to play. So it wasn't, that's why the NBA was out. It sounds like he was probably being offered, hey, come here and be our depth big, right? Be our third or fourth or fifth big in the depth chart. And he was probably like, no, I'm good. Let's face it too. Monaco's a really great place to live if you're rich.
Sure.
Nice weather, really, they take care of people there. Well, that's a club that's known for taking care of their players. They are in EuroLeague, so they're, playing important games over there. So I don't think we're ever going to see Daniel Tice in the NBA again. A lot of times when European players return back to Europe,
they stay.
They stay and they don't come back. But good run for Daniel Tice.
For sure.
2020 or 2017, he came over with the Celtics. Did a couple stints with the Celtics, with Bulls as well, Rockets, Pacers, and then Clippers and Pelicans. So good run for him, and wish him all the best in Monaco and all that. I loved covering Daniel Tice. It was a lot of fun. When the Celtics got him, and we all started watching film on him, and then I started getting asked a lot of questions like, "Who is this Daniel Tice?" Because he's a white guy with a bunch of tattoos and all that stuff. Yeah. They're like, he looks like Chris Anderson, and I was like, yeah, except he can shoot. Like, he's got a jump shot. Like, he's maybe right. Chris Anderson with a jump shot, but he had 2017 till now. That's a pretty good NBA career for Daniel Tyson. You'll get that one, really nice contract from the, I think it was the Bulls, right? And then they traded him. No, I think it was the Rockets, actually. I gave him that one kind of big deal where he made like $8 million a year or whatever it was. But, all good for him. And, but that takes another viable center option off the market for teams that we're looking. So, we'll see where all that comes together.
For sure. All right, everybody. Lots of drama. We had breaking
fun.
news mid-show. Yeah. I thought we were past that point of the year, where there wasn't going to be a lot happening mid-show. So kind of fun to get a little bit of breaking news here. But we do appreciate everybody joining us. Make sure you do subscribe to the channel. We'll be back tomorrow with more around the NBA. Till then, see ya and stay safe.